think when people ask me like, well, how do you stay so motivated? I've just been doing this so like long enough to where I've been training, and whatever that I put my mind to, it's a flip of a switch, you know, and it's black or white. That's how I view a lot of things. Which is good and bad, right? Because it's definitely a double-edged sword. I can get really focused on this thing, but I can only see this thing. And it gets me in trouble sometimes because, you know, I'm so focused on editing my videos, and then my girlfriend's like, hello. And I'm just like, what? And then she's standing there for 10 minutes, right? But that's just how my brain works. And once you tell me you got to do this, it's like flipped on, and that's it. I just got to get through it. And
Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm very honored to have Vince Liu as my interview guest. I'm sure many of you already know who Vince is. He's just a powerhouse. He's just a dynamo. But in case you don't know everything about him, I'm going to give you a quick rundown here. Vince is an endurance runner. He is a powerlifting, weightlifting megastar as far as I'm concerned, with the capabilities that he's had and that he has, and that he's grown so quickly. He is also a Brazilian Jiu Jitsu enthusiast. And he is also, there's just so much more. I don't want to just keep listing things, but we will get to everything, I promise you. So without further ado, Vince, thank you so much for being here. I know this is going to be a great conversation. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited for this. So, yeah, I'm excited. I mean, I've been following your channel for a bit. We've been connected for a few months now, at least. So I've been following your journey. You've been having awesome guests on, and I'm just glad to be a part of your journey. So
I appreciate that, sir. You've been such an inspiration to me, both as a runner and as a YouTube content creator. Just so much. So it's an honor for me to have you here. I just want to jump right in. And since I host a running channel, I want to start off with a bunch of running questions for you. But just before we get into that, just give me a general feel for your athletic background, and go back as far as you'd like.
my athletic background, I wouldn't even consider myself an athlete. I just like doing these. I'm just definitely more of a hobbyist, right? So in terms of athletics, I in high school. So I guess I'll start from high school, and I ran track and cross country in high school. I ran track for 4 years, cross country for 3. Though with that, I wasn't much of a runner then. I was going to track and cross country because of the people, and it was just a lot of fun for me. It was something to do after school, and I wasn't very fast at all. I ran the 300-meter hurdles. I ran a mile. I was running the mile my freshman year of track, but then I realized, oh, this is terrible. I'm dying the whole time, right? I mean, and my fastest mile was, 5 minutes and 30 seconds. So it's not at all that fast, though. I was like, why am I doing this? I can just go do like something shorter, like 400 meters or 300-meter hurdles, and I can finish way faster, because I wasn't winning any races either, right? So
Okay.
I was like, I'm gonna, because my coach at that point, he kind of let us pick, right? And it's not like I was like winning the miles or anything like that, nor would I win the 300-meter hurdles or 400 meters. So I was like, I'm going to switch to, like sprinting, right? So, cause I can get it over with, and then I can just go hang out with my friends. So I did that. And then with cross country, I ran that my sophomore through my senior year. And that was also like terrible too, because I was running 5Ks and I was dying the whole time. And it was just more of a hangout session for me, really. We got to go to Disneyland. We got to go to travel on the weekend. So it was just a lot of fun. And after that, in college, I really stopped running after college. I went to San Diego State. I studied Asian studies and sociology, and I stayed the super senior route. I stayed there for 5.5 years.
Okay.
So I was on and off with studying. I was a math major at first, and then I ended up, picking up sociology and then Asian studies after. Though in college, I would go to the gym every once in a while,
Okay.
but like I wasn't very active. And um, with that, down in San Diego, I'm not sure if you've been to San Diego, but there's this thing called California burritos. And what that is, it's fries in your burritos with meat, guacamole, cheese, sour cream, and I
Sign
ate a
me up.
lot of those. So in college, that compounded with drinking twice a week or whatever it was, and I got a little heavy, right?
Gotcha.
So I got a little heavy. I'm a small frame guy as well. I mean, I'm 5'5". Right now I weigh 130-ish pounds, but in
Okay.
college I got up to like 160, 165. And then after college, I was about 160, 165. And I ended up moving home to Sacramento, and then I was working for my parents for a little bit. And then after that, it was also at the same time of I was just going to work, going home, going to work, going home. And I was like, this would be a good time to get in shape. I've always wanted a six pack.
Yeah.
And then so I started just going to the gym, and I had no idea what I was doing. And then I was just trying to lift weights because I thought, lifting weights, that's good. And then just trying to stay away from, junk food and all that. And through that journey, it took me about 9 months to, get fit and have a six pack and get a six pack. And that's when really my fitness journey started.
Okay.
And with that fitness journey, that was more of a powerlifting background, right? So I
Yeah.
started powerlifting first. I really wasn't doing a lot of cardio. And then with powerlifting, that I did that for a few years, and then that transitioned into ultra running, and then also jujitsu. Jujitsu and ultra running were really right around the same time.
Okay.
Actually, jujitsu was first, and then ultra running was a little bit after. So,
Gotcha. Okay.
yeah.
So you got me curious because it seems like at least in during your high school career, running was something that was, like you said, it was more of like a means for social gathering more than running.
Yeah.
So what changed? Was it just the fact that you were powerlifting and you knew that you needed more of a cardio uh, presence in your life that you started running, or was there intent for racing, or what was it?
Yeah. So for me, running, I was never very fast, right? I mean, I ran cross country, I ran track, but I also don't like that feeling of, a 5K or a mile, and then, my lungs are burning. I would
Yeah.
rather just, I would honestly rather just go out and run a half marathon or even a marathon than do a timed 5K. Like a timed 5K is literally the worst. And
Yep.
over the years, just knowing myself, and for me, it was the transition from powerlifting to ultra running was more of, or actually it was powerlifting to jujitsu, and then jujitsu to ultra running. And now my main focus is more jujitsu and ultra running. But with powerlifting, I got pretty strong for my size. I mean, I weigh 130 to 133 pounds. I was deadlifting, 425, squatting 325, and then
Amazing.
benching 255. So those are roughly my numbers at around 130 pounds. And
Okay.
I realized, like, strength, like, what does that do me? I mean, it's cool to be strong,
Mhm.
but what does it really do me in terms of, if I had to defend myself? So at this point, I was watching the UFC,
Okay.
and I was like, oh, jiu-jitsu. So I was like, all right, let me go and try jiu-jitsu. And I'm a pretty strong guy for my size. And so I go to jiu-jitsu, and like girls that are, there's like I think a female that was about 110 pounds, and she just whooped me, and I just felt defenseless. And I was like, it doesn't matter how strong I am, like I can't do anything about it if that came down to it. So that was kind of that turning point of, oh, okay, I really want to do jiu-jitsu now, because it's really fun, it's addicting, it's a great form of fitness, good for our cardiovascular system. But it's just the community aspect as well. And so I got into jiu-jitsu, and then maybe about, I don't know, like a year later, I read David Goggins' Can't Hurt Me. And
Perfect.
for me, that book really changed my life. And I had always been a fan of David Goggins. I would watch all his, like his clips on Instagram, Facebook, or like YouTube. And I just thought he's really motivational. And then when I read that book, up until this point, I hadn't been running. So this was July of last year. So July 2019, I ran my first marathon.
Okay.
And a couple months before that, that was when I read this book. And when I read the
Wow.
book, it just put into perspective of, if he can go through that, then I can surely run a marathon, or I can surely, build up to a 50 or 100 miler. And that was it, because when he was describing the pain, the journey, and all that it took to run those distances, I was like, that's what I want. That's exactly how I
Gotcha.
want to feel.
Uh-huh.
Because also at the same time, I was really into just self-development and reading books and getting better and being better. And that was that book that really changed my life, because it for me, and then how I transitioned that. So it was, I want to feel that. I want to, be better, but also it's ultra running really stuck out to me because it's me versus me. And if it's how much I can push, how much pain that I can withstand. And then I feel like, if I can run 100 miles, what can't I do? Because then you
Exactly.
can
Exactly.
deconstruct that, and it's all the same process, right? So that book really changed my life, and it was really just, I mean, it was a lot of things, but I feel like that book was that's what got me into running. So I ran my first marathon in July of last year. It was a San Diego Rock and Roll. And
Wow. Okay.
because I was like, okay, I should run a marathon before I run a 50 or 100, right? That makes sense. So I signed up for that one. I ran it, and I was like, oh, it really didn't hurt as much as I thought it would.
Well, yeah, I
So
guess because you were going in such good shape as it was, that you know what I mean? You weren't like
yeah,
a newbie to
yeah.
physical fitness. So I can,
Yeah, I think, and then with my years of powerlifting and ultra running I mean, not ultra running, powerlifting, squats and squats and deadlifts, it really, like built the endurance in my legs. So when I ran that, I was like, oh, it really wasn't that bad. And I was like, I want to feel that pain. And then in September, I sound like a masochist. I ran a 50 miler, and that one it was bad, but it wasn't the worst feeling I've ever had, because on my first 50, I ran the first 34 miles, and then the next 13 or so, I was run, walk. And then the last 3 I had to walk. But then I was like, okay, I want to push this. I want to get to that 100, So once I ran that 100, that was the hardest thing that I've ever done.
yeah, I can imagine.
And it was, oh, I'm 50 miles in, I have to do that again. That is insane. And, my legs I couldn't even bend my knees. I had to wrap up my knees, and it was the hardest thing I had to do physically. But once I was done, I was like, yeah, like this is awesome. And when
Yeah,
I was going through it, each step was so painful, but this is exactly what I wanted, and I
gotcha.
was like smiling through it. I was like, yes, this is awesome. This is pain. And then I just put into perspective of, if David Goggins has done like 100 of these, like I can surely get through one,
Yeah,
and it goes back to the question of, how bad do you want it? How bad do you want it? Like, do you really want this? Because for
absolutely.
me, when I did the 100 miler, it was, it was self-supported. So it was a little bit tougher in terms of, I had a crew, but they were really there just to make sure that I was safe running through the night. But I was like refilling everything myself. And, I was just like pretty much running by myself the whole time. But it was a really good experience. And it's not, with ultra running for me, it's not the fitness that I'm interested in. It's what it does to my mind. Right. And
There you go.
for me, there are way better forms of fitness that I personally enjoy. I like Jiu Jitsu way more. than ultra running or powerlifting, though I can't do jiu-jitsu right now because, with the whole, COVID shelter in placing, and we're just being a little cautious. So I haven't been back, but I prefer jiu-jitsu over ultra running. But with ultra running, you can't get that. Like powerlifting's hard, jiu-jitsu's hard, but ultra running is another type of hard that really takes your mind to that next level. So for me, it's more about what it does to my mind, because I just think to myself, if I can run 100 miles, I can literally do anything I want that I set my mind to. So
Oh,
a
absolutely.
long-winded answer, but
No, that was
yeah.
just an absolute wonderful answer. Just tour de force right there, because I think in the space of 5 minutes, you just, not only did you nail a million questions that I had lined up for you, but you did it so concisely and so motivationally. Man, I tell you what, that 5 minute clip, I'm going to find a million different ways to use that, because you
Awesome.
just nailed it. So,
Yeah.
and one of the reasons that I really wanted to talk to you, because what you do goes so far beyond what I focus on this channel. But one of the big things for me that we have in common is that Goggins book. I just did a video a couple of weeks back about my top favorite all-time running books, and in #1 position was Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. And it seems like it had a very similar effect on you that it did to me. When I'm grinding out a mountain marathon, or, I've never run an ultra yet, but I'm definitely going there. But I think the mindset is the same. The takeaways from that book for me are exactly the same, I think, as what you just gave voice to. So, I love that mindset, because I think what I really want people to realize as they're watching this is that learning to quiet your mind, learning to set a goal and not let anything get in your way. That's the trick to anything. Once you have it in here and you refuse to let go, the world is yours. And that's why I love your channel, because even when I tune in, I'll watch your videos on subject matter that have nothing to do with my life, that I know will have nothing to do with my life in all likelihood. Whether you're talking about your newfound real estate career, or if you're talking in depth about jiu-jitsu, I watch, because it's the attitude you take to those videos. It's that singular mindset that I enjoy so much. And I just want to take a moment to recommend everybody, if you're not already subscribed to Vince's YouTube channel, go find it right now. I mean, the sheer level of motivation is incredible. So, get there. So with that said, sir, I want to pick up a little bit on everything that you just talked about as far as your physical training goes. What does your training schedule look like these days? How do you fit all this in?
So nowadays, I started my real estate as working as a real estate agent in California about 2 months ago. So it's been a little less than 8 weeks. I think I just finished my 7th week. So with that, I've been super busy. But with training, it's one of those things that I've been doing for so long that if I don't do, I feel weird, or if I feel like something's missing in my day. So I have to get in my training no matter what. So I am also on a running streak. So I wanted to run for every day for at least a year, just to see, and it's just to see if I can do it. Just a fun little goal that I have. And a lot of the days it's a lot more than 1 mile, but 1 mile is my bare minimum.
Okay.
So some days if I'm super busy, I'll just run 1 mile. But a lot of days I usually, now that I'm back into the full swing of things, because I have a 50 that I'm training for next month, and then 100 that I'm training for in December. So I try to get in, 45 to 50 miles on average
Okay.
per week. And then in terms of powerlifting, I don't really powerlift that much anymore, just because with powerlifting, it zaps my energy. It's way harder on my body than just like a short run or even a medium to long run, it's because I'm usually with my powerlifting style, I'm more focused on strength. So I'm doing like a 5x5 and I tend to go pretty heavy, but then the next 2 days, I can really feel it in my central nervous system. So I've been scaling back on the powerlifting. So number one, I run every day. And then I usually like to have one long run with one back to back with like a shorter medium run. So like anywhere from 15 to 20 miles would be my long run. And then the next day I like to have, like a 6 to 9 mile run. And then during the week, Monday through Friday, it's whatever I can get in. So it could be a 1 mile run just to continue my running streak, or it can be 3 to 5 miles, whatever I have time for during that day. And in addition to my running, I right now I don't do jiu-jitsu, but when jiu-jitsu comes back, I'll definitely be going back and have to adjust then. But I have a yearly pull-up goal as well. So I wanted to do 36,600 pull-ups for the year, an average of 100 per day. And at the start of October, I think I was about 1,500 behind in terms of pull-ups to catch up for my yearly goal. So this month I have been doing a lot of pull-ups. So I've been doing, 200 to 300 per day. And I think I'm finally caught up now at the end of October. So I just have 2 more months of that. And then, so I've been doing pull-ups, anywhere from 20 minutes to, 40 minutes every single day. It just depends on the day. So my training schedule more mainly has been pull-ups and then running. So that's what it kind of looks like for me right now. And I will have to say one thing about my training style is I'm not on a specific plan. I 100% go by feel. So it's whatever I feel like doing that day is what I feel like doing that day. But I will have a rough skeleton of what I need to do, So it's like, okay, this week, I know I have to do a lot of pull-ups. I don't have a number, but in terms of running, I know I have a long run, and then I know I have, 2 medium runs, and I just get that in whenever I get that in. So sometimes that hurts me a little bit because I wait too long into the week, and I'm like, okay, I still have 2 medium runs and then 1 long run, right? So I should get it done a little bit earlier. It always bites me in the butt. But for the most part, I go by feel, because people are like, are you doing pull-ups every single day? Like, is that bad for you? I was like, I have no idea. I mean, I just do it because I like doing it. And also my back is strong enough to where it doesn't matter if I do 300 pull-ups. Like I'm never sore the next day. So that's more personally my training philosophy and style, because if I was on a regimented plan, I would not enjoy training that much. Right. And for me, I like longevity and the like just the love of training, that's more important to me than necessarily getting faster or certain like strength goals. And that's why my training is so like loose in terms, if you want to call it that, but that's more my training philosophy for myself. That's why I don't do any speed work either, because, I can do, people like, oh, you should do some speed work. Like, yeah, that would benefit me. But although at the same time, like, I hate doing speed work. I'll do like maybe some strides, like 50 to 100 meter strides every once in a while. But, as I said, I don't like doing 1 mile time trials. I don't like doing those 5K runs. So for me, I would rather, and as an ultra runner as well, my goal right now, I've only done 150 and 100 miler. My goal is to more mainly just finish the races. Right. It's not necessarily, I want to get a certain time. So for me, I feel like the total of mileage is more important to me right now in terms of my goals than to go and do 1 mile repeats. Right.
Exactly. And that's something I just kind of want to jump in on a little bit. Though I have not run an ultra yet, I know enough about the sport that there's a couple of things that you touched on that I kind of want to talk about. Number one, if you're an ultra runner or a marathoner for that matter, speed work is kind of something that happens on the periphery anyway. Track work, running 400s, 600s, 800s, that's kind of something you don't really need in the marathon and ultra world. you can get all you need just from, like you said, running strides and tempo runs, like on the roads. You don't really need to hit the track. But one thing I found very interesting that you said right at the beginning of that last segment is that you do a long run followed the next day by a medium long run. And as far as I know, that is something that's a staple of ultramarathoning, is to be able to wear yourself out on a long run and then go back the next day when you're still feeling pretty bad and just force those legs to do the job. So if you don't mind talking a little bit more about that, how do you drive yourself through that? And also tag on to that. You said you like to go by feel when you're training, doing your running, but as a race approaches, when you're approaching that race day, do you get more regimented, or do you just stay purely as a go by feel kind of guy?
I pretty much, I mean, I usually just stay with the go by feel. I mean, I've been doing this long enough, or not necessarily ultra running, but I'll listen to my body, and that's where I know that, okay, I need to scale back, because usually for me, if I'm putting too much mileage in, I can just feel it in my body. And it's like, okay, I'm getting sick. I'm getting the sniffles. Okay, let me take a day, and just, maybe just run a mile so that I can just continue my running streak. But I'll make sure to add in, I have built-in tapers. So not to, like deloads, right? So I'll usually go 3 to 4 weeks on, and then 1 week I scale back. So I might hit, 50, 55, 60 miles for, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. And then that next week I'll taper back to 30, because I know that I need to, give my body a little bit of rest. And
exactly,
in
that's
terms
where you
of
get that super compensation and all that kind of stuff. So good
yeah,
for you.
because I've had that same thing with powerlifting. If I keep going and going and going, you kind of like plateau a lot faster, but also your body needs that extra, day of rest, or that week of rest where you're going through the motions, but you're not necessarily pushing your body to those limits that you would. And in terms of how I get through those, I mean, the reason why I especially for the long run and then back to back by a medium to long run is because when I first ran my 50 and my 100 milers, I was only doing a long run, and I wasn't putting it back to back with that. And then I realized my 100 mile that day, it was literally so hard. And I feel like if I would have trained smarter and done the back to backs, then it would have probably been a lot easier. So that's why I'm a fan of doing those, just because, again, as you mentioned, it's you go out for a 20-mile run, and then the next day you're tired. Your body's might be aching a little bit, so you got to go out and at least get in 7 miles just to train your body to react in a proper way when the time comes, right? So it's always for the future. So I mean, with that, in terms of how I get through it, it's, for me, my mindset on a lot of things, as you mentioned earlier, it's a singular mindset. So for me, it's not that, oh, this is tough, I'm going to give up. It's more like, I just have to do this. Like, it's just, I just have to do this. And that's it. Like 20 miles. Okay. I just have to do it. But it's also like a mix and a feel, right? As I mentioned before, it's like, I go by feel, but like, I know today I'm going to do a long run. So if I'm at 17 miles and I'm really feeling not that great, like, then I'll stop at 17. But if I'm feeling good, then I'll add another 3, right? So like, it's kind of a mix of, I got to do this, but I also like, I'm going to go by feel, right? So that's with everything that I do. It's like, I think when people ask me like, oh, well, how do you stay so motivated? I've just been doing this so like long enough to where I've been training, and whatever that I put my mind to, it's a flip of a switch, and it's black or white. That's how I view a lot of things, which is good and bad, right? Because it's definitely a double-edged sword. I can get really focused on this thing, but I can only see this thing, and it gets me in trouble sometimes because I'm so focused on editing my videos, and then my girlfriend's like, hello, and I'm just like, what? And then she's standing there for 10 minutes, right? But that's just how my brain works. And once you tell me you got to do this, it's like flipped on, and that's it. I just got to get through it. And even when I ran like not necessarily my 100 miler, because when I ran 100 miler, it was, oh, like, this is tough. Like, why am I doing this? But it was also at the same time, like, I have to do this. Like, I just got to put one foot in front of the other.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when people ask me the question, how do you stay motivated to do YouTube, to balance all these things? It's like, I think once you get into the habit of doing those certain things, like with YouTube, I've been coming out with daily videos for a little over 7 months now. But I've also been exercising for 5 or 6 years straight. So, and then now I'm adding more stuff to my plate, but I've been doing each of these things long enough singularly that it feels weird if I don't do it. So for me, it's just one of those things. It's like, I just got it. It's just on my list of things I have to do. Right. So.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think that's a big thing. And you alluded to that when you were talking about the Goggins book and how you took that to heart. It's just, yeah, once you make that decision that it's going to get done, there's no room. It's just you and a goal, and that's all there is to it. So yeah, I mean, that's the big key. And Goggins goes into so much detail about how to put those negative thoughts out of your mind when you're going through the motions and it hurts. And I think that's a big thing that sets that book apart. And that's what I love so much about your channel, because on a daily basis, I get to see it in action, and that motivates me. And I'm hoping that everybody watching this gets the same thing once they subscribe to your channel. I'm just grinding it out, just learning how to grind it out, and
yeah.
So I want to ask a question, because you just talked about this a little bit. And I'd like to go a little bit deeper. How do you balance? We talked about. I asked you earlier about how you balance, Jiu Jitsu and powerlifting and running and all that kind of stuff as far as your athletics go. But to expand that to a bigger picture, you just finished saying that you can get a little bit tunnel visioned when it comes to accomplishing the goals that you've set yourself every day. How do you, what do you do to try to balance everything that's in your life? Not just the athletics, but like when it comes to being a YouTuber, when it comes to training, social media, career, and, relationships. Like, just talk about that.
Yeah. So for me, I think my view on balance is not necessarily I want balance. And it's like, if you've ever read the book by Gary Keller, The One Thing, balance doesn't necessarily exist. So let's say you have 5 areas and you want to get 20% to each area. Well, that's not reality. Some, all the how my life in terms of what I could give, it depends on the season. So it ebbs and flows. So it's, some weeks I might have to give 40% here and only 5% here, and so on and so forth. So for me, I think that I don't necessarily shoot for balance, but me being unbalanced is me being balanced, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I just get so caught up into certain things that, I have to, put my energy, my energy is finite, right? But I have an understanding that if I put energy into one area, then the other areas might not get that attention.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So with that understanding, I think it's like I live a pretty unbalanced life in modern terms or in modern thought, and in order to, I guess get through my day and do all the things that I want to do, there's a couple key things that I have to do. One, I have to wake up earlier, right? So waking up earlier around, 6, lately it's been 6 a.m., but I've been trying to peel that back a little bit more. So you just get more done with your day. And then number 2, time blocking, scheduling, and being efficient. So efficiency is the name of the game for me. It's like, how do I squeeze the most out of my day that I can while being able to do everything? So efficiency for me looks like to-do lists. It looks like time blocking. With balancing YouTube, those are the things that I just have to get done. I have to comment on other people's videos. I have to comment back on my comments, but I schedule a block in the morning, an hour block in the morning to do all that. Right. And then it's just more me being efficient with my time. Cause I have to get 8 hours of sleep. I can't not get 8 hours of sleep, because with all the training that I do, if I don't get 8 hours, if I don't get 7 hours, I'm absolutely crushed. Like there's no way around it. And the sweet spot for me is 8 hours, 7.5. Even at 7 hours, I'm a little bit groggy. I'm like, oh, I still feel it.
I know the feeling.
But yeah. I mean, it's the stress. It's the stress that we're putting on our bodies, right? I mean, you gotta have your rest. But it's for me, it's maximizing the other 16 hours that are in the day. So I tend not to, like lollygag in terms of or like trying to waste my time, right? So I have to be really efficient with my time, and I think that's how I've been able to do all the things that I want to do, is because I have set blocks and I'm just really hyper efficient with my day, and I'm able to get more done. Now, if I keep adding to my plate, no matter how efficient that I get, I know that I won't be able to do it all. So, but for me now, this is what I could do all the things that I want to do. And, obviously when Jiu Jitsu comes back, I'll have to, take some of that running time to put into Jiu Jitsu, because, at that point, I won't have time to do everything like physically. And
absolutely.
And that's what it is for me. It's adjusting as I go, and that's why I'm a big proponent of, go by feel, because go by feel and then just adapt as you go. Because, even daily or weekly, it's okay, what do I have going on? I know I have to get these things done. But like, what can I fit in now so that I don't have to do later? And then how can I, at the end of the day, complete everything that I want to complete? So, I think, I just going back to the whole like sleep thing, people think, people are like, how are you doing all this? Are you getting 8 hours of sleep? It's, again, I just want to stress that it's what you do in the other 16 hours of your day. Then, like, cause there's 3 hours on Netflix a day, that's times 7, that's 21 hours. And also if you work on the weekends, right? Like people don't work on the weekends. That's 32 hours that you can work additionally per weekend, right? And a lot of people take the weekends off. Like I don't believe in necessarily taking weekends off, but to each their own. And I think at the end of the day, it also comes down to self-awareness and what you can handle, because I feel that I am pretty self-aware to where I'll not only will I get 7 to 8 hours sleep a night, but I know when to take breaks. As I alluded to earlier, with my training, I'll take 3 weeks on, 1 week off, or like, scale back, right? So I do that same thing for I do that same thing for my grind mentality, right? So usually I know for myself, I can go really hard for about 7 to 10 days. 7 to 10 days with work, with exercise. But on that, 7th to 10th day, I know I need a half day break. So I know that I need to, so that's kind of my deload, right? Or that's kind of like me retracting back. For everyone, it might be a little bit different, and it might not be days. It could be hours. Okay. Like you can work 6 hours on and then take 1 hour off, and then you can work another 6 hours. Rather, if you push 10 hours and then you're done for the whole day, then you only got 10 hours of work in per day. But let's say you do 6, 1, 6. Well, that's 12 hours per day. So you're netting more. So that's the way that I like to think about it, is you just have to know yourself and how you work.
Yep.
So
what works for you
to get the most out of your day and your time. So
that's brilliant right
exactly.
there. That's absolutely brilliant. I love that. I love that alternative way of breaking up the day like that. It's just brilliant. I hate to keep reusing the same word, but to open up the box like that and say, there are different ways you can organize your time. And suddenly what seems like a very limited amount of time, 16 hours, can be reconfigured, and man, can you get so much more out of it. And one thing I do want to point out for everybody, something that you've said a couple of times here that I think is absolutely critical. I love the fact that you say that 8 hours a day for sleep is seemingly or non-negotiable, because you just can't run your system physically without that. That's so huge. People, especially when they're new to training, they just get on the bandwagon of trying to get in shape. They don't necessarily out of the gate understand how important the downtime is. That's where your gains are made. You know, I mean, when you're pushing your body, when you're powerlifting, when you're running, 100-mile weeks, that's where you're doing the damage so that your body can compensate. But if you don't give your body the rest it needs, you're done. So thank you for that, Vince, for pointing out the importance of rest on top of just pushing so hard. The one last thing I really wanted to touch on with you in this interview is YouTube and social media, because you're such a driven individual. I don't think anybody who's watched this is going to have any doubt of that. But what was the motivation to get on YouTube specifically and start a channel and push yourself to the point where you're vlogging every single day? Yeah, just give us the details on what motivated that and how you managed to keep that schedule up every day.
Yeah, so for me, I started my channel in January 2019, but I was just so sporadic with it. I was on and off. And at that point, it was, I was learning editing, I was learning filming and all that. And I saw a little bit of growth, but not too much. And then it was about March of this year. So March of this year, I've been listening to Gary Vee. I'm a big fan of Gary Vee. And I watched a couple of his videos, and he's just like, you have to really give something full effort for at least 2 to 3 years to see like any meaningful gains. And I thought to myself, yeah, like I've always talked about wanting to, not necessarily be a YouTuber, but just I want to, create a YouTube channel just to, just because I wanted to, and that seemed like a creative outlet for me. And so I asked, okay, what's the one thing that I can do so that I can commit? Mm-hmm. And I said, okay, if I create one video a day for a year, and he mentioned 2 to 3 years, but I said let's just start with a year, and okay. I feel like that would be a good starting point. And then if I make one video a day and I commit to that, everything will work itself out. I'll get better at editing, I'll get better at thumbnails, I'll get better at speaking to the camera, and et cetera, et cetera. And so that was March 16th of this year. Okay. And since then, I've come out with at least one piece of content. The only day I skipped was Blackout Tuesday. But other than that, I've stuck to the at least one piece of content for YouTube. And in terms of, I think the first, couple, like maybe the first 2 months, it was a little bit tough because I still wasn't great at editing. I still wasn't great on the camera. I didn't even know how to use my camera. Like I was just shooting on auto mode. But now, okay, with the help of Kevin E, I've been able to learn how to use my camera, and then everything is starting to work itself out. And then I've getting faster and better, and my content's coming out just like quicker. I save a lot more time. And I think, now that I've been doing it for 7 months, it's just one of those things where if I don't do it, it feels weird. Right. And for me, the type of person I am, I want to not only talk the talk, but I want to walk the walk. And the goal of my channel is to show you, hey, this is my journey. This is what I did to grow my YouTube channel. And I want to show you like the grind that I'm doing, because as a content creator, as you know, I mean, there's a lot that goes into one video, even if it's not heavily edited, even if it's 4 to 5 minutes, a short video, and it's just you talking, it takes that commitment and time. And so for me, that's what I want to show. I want to show like, hey, if you put in the work, you'll get there. And I'm not huge. I'm a little over 1,400 subscribers. But there will be no doubt in anyone's mind in 5 years, in 10 years, if I get to those huge numbers of 50K, 100K, like how did Vince do it? He made a video, he grinded his way through it. And that's a person, because I want to have an air of transparency as well. Like, hey, this is what I did. Because I also feel, working through this YouTube journey, there are a few people, maybe 1%, that really blow up overnight. They have a viral video, or something happens to where they just explode and now they have 1 million followers. But for the vast majority of us, it takes that grind day in, day out. We might grow, 3 to 5 subscribers every day, but it's not that much, and not compared to something happening overnight. And then I just want to show people that here's the game plan, and the game plan, and just like with anything else, it's simple, but it's not easy, right? Like how do you run 100 miles? It's simple, but it's not easy. All you got to do is put one foot in front of the other. Right. And that's how I treat this journey as well. I just got to put one foot in front of the other, and that foot is a video. So video after video after video after video. So all in all, later down the line, there's going to be no like, just thoughts of like, how did he get there? He blew up overnight. He's an overnight success. Like, no, there's 5 years of daily videos, or at least 1 year of daily videos, and then after that I might transition to 3 to 5 videos. But up until that point, it'll be, hey, like how do you get there? And then because I'm a firm believer, for 99% of things that you want in life, you just have to go get it. Like it's up to you. Like if you want to go get it, if you want to run 100 miles, go get it. If there are circumstances, in which you can't change, but for a lot of things you can. And it's a thought process of, if you want it, go get it. So if you're complaining about it and you can change it, why are you complaining about it? You can go change it. But if you can't change it, that's a different story, right? Exactly. But for the vast majority of goals that you want to achieve, like if you want to lose weight, like it's a pretty simple formula, but it's not necessarily easy. And this is my thought process, for everything, right? It's just for everything. If you want to go get it, and I will caveat this is a thought process for myself, and not necessarily for anyone else. Now, if you want to take up this thought process too, more power to you, and I'm with you. But if you don't have this kind of like thinking, I don't expect anyone to have this type of thinking, and because it's to each their own. And for me, at the end of the day, it's what do you want out of life? And I want an extraordinary life. And I know that in order for me to get an extraordinary life, I have to put in extraordinary effort. And that's why I go back to, the whole balance thing of, like for me, my perspective is nothing, like the greats, they lived an unbalanced life. Exactly. So unbalanced life, unbalanced effort. If, those types of work ethic will get to, you to to be one of the greats. But at the same time, you have to ask yourself what you want. Like I am 100% aware that my life up to this point is a culmination of all the decisions that I've ever made, right? Like because I was on Netflix for 3 hours, the other day, that's 3 hours less that I had to put towards my certain goals, right? So for me, I'm happy with where I'm at, but I'm not satisfied. So I want to make sure that I keep pushing my limits and get to that next level, right? So again, long-winded answer. I think I'm just going off on different
no, I don't think so.
Tangents, but
I think so. I don't think they were tangents in the sense of we just went off in a random direction. I think the one thing that's really coming through is just how focused you are. And the one thing that I want to make sure is communicated here, and the reason I wanted to talk about your YouTube channel is because what sets your channel apart for me as a subscriber is not just the fact that I get to watch you grind every day, that I get to see an example, that you're setting an example for others, but that you're sharing. You're not just out there saying, look at me, I'm pushing hard. Why aren't you pushing hard? You're out there pushing hard, and you're taking the time every single day to show people how to get there in detail. And, you know, not just with what you're doing physically, but your approach to YouTube is also, like you said, it's the daily grind. It's the putting in the work every day, but not only are you putting that work in, you're sharing every single step. And that is absolute gold. You have no idea, I don't think, how valuable that is to others who really want to grow their channel, to become more fit. Whatever it is that they're trying to achieve, someone like you who's out there sharing the details of how you got there is just, I can't tell you enough how much I appreciate you and your channel for that. I mean, the difference you've made to my life, whether you know it or not, is significant. And I want to take the opportunity right here on camera to thank you for that. Just you know, hats off to you, sir. So with that said, I want to ask a little bit more of a softball question. Do you have time? I'm just wondering, do you have time for other hobbies or interests? If so, what are they?
Hobbies and interests. I think, I mean, luckily, you know, running and all my fitness stuff, those are my hobbies and interests, but I have like, you know, other interests too. Like I really like, you know, like investing. I really like making money.
Okay.
Right. So, like investing in the stock market. I mean, I'm not as deep into it as a lot of people, but I know the basics. And for me, it's actually, I have a genuine interest in learning. And I think that's what takes me, like with my mindset, like it takes me, you know, trying to get to that next level. Cause I want to have an understanding of like, when I like learn something, it's, you know, I feel like I'm storing that in my brain so that I can use it for later on, but I don't know when I'm going to use it. Right. So like I have like, that's why I love reading. That's why I love just taking on information and learning anything about anything that I can. So if it's, because like for me, it's trying to understand the processes of how that thing works. So I guess, you know, that's kind of like a meta answer, but other than that, I mean, I you know, growing up, I also collect coins. So I
Okay.
collect currency. I'm a big coin collector.
Very cool.
So that's like another hobby and interest of mine. And then lately I've been getting into card collecting as well. Just like Pokemon cards and sports cards, just because,
Okay.
I mean, that kind of goes hand in hand with like investing, just because it's cool to have something physical of like, hey, like this Charizard's worth like $300, you know, or whatever. So,
Yes.
you know, anything for me is, it goes back to learning of that I can better myself. Right. So that's usually what I like to do. And then in terms, other than that, I really don't have that much time for much else. I don't really watch, like, I do watch a little bit of TV nowadays, but I've limited to the series of, okay, I can only watch whatever I'm already watching. So like The Mandalorian, I've been
Okay.
watching The Mandalorian, so I watched an episode yesterday, but I typically don't watch like a ton of TV. What else? Yeah. So other than that, I mean, everything else keeps me pretty busy.
I was going to say, I'm
Yeah.
surprised you even
Yeah.
have that much going on the side. That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
cool.
So it's
So,
good.
all right, I'm going to ask you another general question, and I'm going to expand it out from what I usually ask. I usually ask this question purely of running, but I want you to answer this in terms of running, weightlifting, jiu-jitsu. How have those activities changed your life for the better?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's with powerlifting, jujitsu, and running, they've all had like a different part in my life and a different, I guess, not like meaning or just how they've affected my life. And with powerlifting, that's what I got started with when I got into my fitness journey. So that's always kind of like there because I've been doing that the longest. I like doing it, but also it's what got me in shape. So it's the thing that started my journey that I still do, frequently, but, not as frequently as I did in the past, but that'll just have a special place in my heart because, it got me to, getting a six pack and getting fit and starting my fitness journey.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, with ultra running, it's more of that mindset of, okay, like if I could do this, if I can run 100 miles, I can do anything. And for me, that's, as I said before, that's my biggest reason of why I like to ultra run or like to do those ultra distances, because it really pushes my mind and it really expands my mind because up until, when I was running that 100 miler, the first 50 miles, it wasn't necessarily easy, but it was just, I did it and that's what it was. But then, after like mile 70, with each step, I felt my mind expanding. It was weird. It was like, oh, this step is so painful, but I know I have 30 more miles and that's however many hours. And with me, that's what I attribute ultra running to is just expanding my mind. And I'll always go back to it because I don't really like running all that much. I do it because it sucks. Right. But it's not one of those things where it's like, oh, I really, really like running. Like if I had a choice of what I could do, I would definitely choose Jiu Jitsu more. So it's more of sharpening my mind than anything. And, I'm sure, David Goggins, do one thing that sucks every day. And running's kind of that thing for me. It's not necessarily that I love it, but it's like nowadays it's neutral, right? When I'm going out there, I just put in my earpods. I listen to a podcast, I listen to music. So it's just me going through the motions and me doing it. But it's not like, oh, I'm so excited for running, right? So that doesn't really happen. And then with jiu-jitsu, it's not only self-defense for me, it's given me that confidence that if anything should happen, I'm at least mildly equipped. And for me, I'm only a blue belt. So right there, that means I've only been doing jiu-jitsu for about 1.5 to 2 years. But the more that I keep going, the more that I'm going to get better. And, should anything happen in the future, in terms of, physical altercations, I'll at least be equipped with it. And then also with that, it's, it's really changed my life because I've met some really cool people in jiu-jitsu. With the different communities of powerlifting, ultra running and jiu-jitsu, powerlifting, there is a community, but you don't really meet them unless you're at a powerlifting meet. So it's really hard to meet people at the gym because, you usually have your earphones in and everyone's kind of doing their own thing. So I've met very few people powerlifting.
Okay.
And then ultra running, I'm still so new as well. I've only been doing it for about 1 year or so. I haven't gone into any official races. So I haven't been able to meet some cool people. So like, the one marathon that I ran, I liked the vibes and I met some cool people, but I'm excited to dive into official ultra races because I've heard the community there is really cool as well. But the community that I have met, through YouTube or Facebook groups, they've been really cool. But with jiu-jitsu, there's something different about because you're training with these people every day and you're trying to kill each other basically every day, right? Because you're grappling with each other, you're trying to choke each other unconscious or snap each other's limbs, and then we'll stop a little bit before. But there's just something about that, and you're just so close contact that I've met some really cool people in jiu-jitsu, and it's one of those things that's really addicting for me. But with all three, it's all forms of fitness, and at the end of the day, that's when I do fitness or when I do any form of fitness, I feel accomplished afterwards. Like, oh, I just have to do one form of fitness every day. It doesn't necessarily be all three, but once I get a little bit of sweat in, I feel like, okay, like I feel a little bit more accomplished. Like I'm putting work towards my physical health. Right. And that's super important to me as well. So.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. I think you just put that very well. I think, you know, that's what I get out of it, you know, when I'm just grinding out, you know, because, you know, I train 7 days a week myself. So it's just, you know, you feel like you're building a better tomorrow. So
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly
that's
what
what
I
I
mean.
get out of your channel, you know, every single day.
Yeah.
So that's
Thank you.
awesome. So let me ask you this. I got another kind of general question for you. Um, and this doesn't have to be something original that came from your head, but it could be something that you gained from reading or watching somebody else. But I'd like you to share a favorite piece of advice with everybody watching.
Favorite piece of advice. It's, you know, probably my favorite piece of advice, and I say this all the time, is just how do you run 100 miles? And 100 miles is just a goal, right? It's not just running. It could be jujitsu, it could be relationships, whatever goal that you have. You just got to put one foot in front of the other. You know, like you just have to keep going. It's consistency. It's day in, day out. So whenever I am in a tough situation and I think that I'm not making any progress,
Mhm.
with whatever goal, I just go, how do you run 100 miles? And then that immediately clicks in my brain, like, oh, I just got to keep going. I just got to keep going. I can't take a day off, you know, and or I can't take time off. You know, I have to be consistent with it. So that equates to consistency for me. It's just, I just have to keep going. And it's not necessarily that, because day by day, it's hard to see any type of results, right? Because you're putting in the training, you don't really see anything too much of a gains, or even week by week, it's a little tough. But when you start comparing months and like 3 months and 6 months, and you look back and you're like, whoa, like this, I've been putting my head down. I've been doing this for 6 months and I've seen some meaningful gains. And usually for me, that's like with a training block, with a ultra training block, or with doing pull-ups, or with you know, whatever it is, it'll usually come in 3 to 4 months is when I'll have another light bulb, right? It'll all of a sudden on that 100th day, I'm like, oh, this is crazy. Like I get it. Or you know, you're out there running, and then you're running like a half marathon, and you look down, like, I'm going pretty fast. Like, you know, like 100 days ago, this was hard. This was kind of hard, but
Yeah,
today it's a little bit easier, right? You're running 5 to 10 minutes faster per mile, or whatever it is. So all you have to do, like for me, is just keep going, put one foot in front of the other, and then just be patient. The patience game is probably the hardest game. It's, you want to see these results over time, but if you have an understanding of, if you put in work day in, day out, there's no way that you're not going to get to your goals, or at least make meaningful strides, right? And yes, like it's not all about just like consistency. Like consistency is one of the main factors, but you have to work smart, you have to work hard. It's a little bit of everything. So just because, you know, don't mistake, you know, being busy for making like gains, right? So you have to, it's a little bit of everything, but
beautiful.
Consistency is 80% of the, you know, probably, you know, give or take 80% of the formula. Like you just put one foot in front of the other and you'll eventually get there. In my opinion, that's what I have for at least my goals.
Yeah, well, I'll back you up on everything you just said, sir, because over the years, that's what's done it for me. And everybody that I like to model myself after, I think, has a very similar message. So I think you're spot on. With that, sir, I just want to say that I really appreciate your time today. I appreciate, as always, as I have for months now, your motivation, your inspiration, and your day-to-day detailed how-tos, just invaluable. So with that, sir, I want to give you the opportunity to talk about the best ways for people to find you online, whether that be, you know, YouTube, which we've talked about so much today, or any of your other social media outlets.
Yeah, so the best way to contact me is Instagram. I'm really active on there, and then also YouTube. So I know with Instagram you can DM, so it'll be a little bit easier, but it's Life with Vince Liu, and then it's the same as my YouTube channel. So YouTube and Instagram are usually what I'm on, and those are probably the best. And if you have any, also I work full time as a California real estate agent. So if you have any questions about real estate, and it doesn't even necessarily need to be in California, you could be, like in the US. If I can't answer your question, then I can connect you with someone to answer your question. For me, it's all about starting a conversation, right? I mean, it's not even just real estate. It's just with anything. If you have a question, I'll answer to the best of my abilities. And that's how I've always been. When people ask me questions on like fitness, I'll give them everything that I have, and I won't hold anything back. Because why? We don't need to do that. So, more than an open book. If anyone has any questions, all you have to do is reach out, and we'll start a conversation.
That's awesome. And I'll share everything that I know about as far as your links go down below. So everybody just click that show more button, and you'll get to see all the different ways you can find Vince. But with that, sir, I want to, again, thank you for your time. I think this has just been a really fruitful, amazing conversation. I just love listening to you talk because, it's always so full of good information. So thank you for being here today, sir. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you. Yeah, this was really fun. This was, thanks for having me. And I wanted to say thank you. You've been an awesome host, and you've asked a lot of good questions. And I especially love talking about this just because it's reminding myself like, okay, I got to keep going. So it's really cool. And I enjoy your channel as well. And, I'm excited for us to get to that next level.
Yeah. And I love watching it happen for you every day. It's just very well deserved. So I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend, sir. And again, thank you for being here.
Thank you.